Today's guest on the Roost is an accomplished touring drummer and singer, plays on the road and downtown Nashville, and is also an incredible songwriter. Just released some new music, and his vocal style is similar to 2000s emo rock. I was very impressed with his production quality and the songwriting ability, and he's also a great hang and an incredibly fun drummer to watch. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Brian Russell Collins.
When I watched the podcast with you and Hayden, I was like, okay, this is cool. This is different. Because I've been on a few podcasts where I was like, okay, well, you don't see our faces. You don't know what we look like.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look like a troll. Then when you see me, I'm like, hey, I look like Peter Griffin with a beard. So it's totally fine. So
Yeah.
I like to make it fun. But these are cool, man. I love these things, man.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about YouTube and see where it's going to go in a couple of years, and just like trying to grow that online presence.
Dude, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the setup's great. I mean, the cool little thing in the back. I mean, it's dope, man. I dig it. So
thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I saw you at that Hayden show, and you and Hayden just went to Vegas. How was that?
That was fun. So we went with my buddy Danny Stevens. Danny was he still is a singer. Danny was the singer for a really big rock band back in the day called The Audition. And I was a huge fan. And it took me a minute to figure out who Danny was when I first met him. And I was like, oh, crap, you're Danny Stevens of The Audition. I'm going to fangirl for a minute, and then I'm going to play music with you. So our guitarist that's normally with us couldn't go, and Danny was like, who should we bring? I was like, I know the guy. And right then, Hayden fit in just fine, and everyone knows Hayden. He's right here. Hayden, if you're watching, right here, buddy. Everyone knows Hayden, how funny he is, but just how talented he is, and I knew that there was no other person that I wanted to bring out there. And we had such a great time. My dad came out with us. It was the first time my dad's ever been on the road with us. Nice. And my dad and Hayden and I went to breakfast at like IHOP before we went to the show, and that was hysterical. But just playing with Hayden just on the road, I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And now that I got the chance to do it, I want to do it more. And the guy's just incredible. I mean, there's no words. I mean, everyone knows how incredible he is, but it's not just his playing that makes him incredible. It's just who he is as a human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I love about the guy. So it makes it all the better.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you like the people you're playing with.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Like everybody in that band, I've played with for a while. Danny, we've only known each other since August of last year, and it was crazy how Danny and I met. We met through a thing called Grunge Night, and Grunge Night is something that the guys from Jack Ivan and his brother put on. And it's awesome. They just get a bunch of guys together and they play a bunch of grunge music, and that's up Hayden's alley all the time.
Absolutely.
So Danny and I were on a song together. We were on a song called "Got You Where I Want You" from The Flies, which I love that song because it was in a movie called Disturbing Behavior. I'm a nerd, so I will always find out if there's a song that we're playing that's in a soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time at Hayden's show, and we just laugh about it all the time. So we were having a great time, and Danny and I were talking. And he's like, yeah, I used to play with a band called The Audition, and it took me a second. I went, hold on, I know you. And it wasn't like a weird interaction. We just had a great conversation. We were great on stage together. And then before I left, he's like, hey, I want you to hear my album. Just tell me what you think. Before I got out of the parking lot, I was like, where did this come from? Why haven't we heard this in Nashville? Like, this is what we need right now. And Danny and I just kind of got together, put a band together, and everybody that's in the band has been great. Josh Suddeth, he's also my producer for my music also. He also used to play for Reliant K. I worked with Brantley Gilbert for a little while as a tech, and just a great dude. Our bass player I used to play with Dylan Carmichael, A.D. Dunlap. I love that guy. I could not say anything bad about him. He's the groove master.
Yeah.
And then our other guitarist, is it Adam? Andy Adamson. My bad. I can't tell you people's last names all the time. So Andy couldn't make it, and then we just called Hayden, and it was just, it was great. It was never a hard time with practicing, nothing. I mean, Hayden always gets it. He can go into a room and hear one song, and you're like, okay, dude, we got you.
Yeah. Dude, so I know they have like the basement definitely has some kind of like counter Nashville culture shows.
Yeah.
But like you're talking about Grunge Night. Tell me more. Do they still do Grunge Night? Do
So
they still do
Grunge Night they do at the Basement East now.
Okay.
They've been doing that, man, for a few years now, and it's still going strong. I think the next one is probably in a couple months. They just had one recently. I was supposed to be on, but I couldn't do it due to scheduling conflicts. But I love being able to go just do stuff like that because it's cool to be able to get musicians that are big touring guys and not so big touring guys to come and just jam together and just play songs. And a lot of those shows are, geared towards some kind of charity. And I love that because we need to start doing more charity events, because there's a lot of people that are in need. I mean, this one thing that I'm doing in October, it's going to be a charity event for the American Cancer Society because I'm a big advocate for American Cancer Society. But last year I did one for mental health. So, I'm always down to do any kind of charity to help anybody out. And the fact that we get to do it through music is what makes it great.
Yeah. Tell me more about that event. You said that was at the East Side Bowl event.
So last year did an event. Well, I've done. This will be my third one. So 2 years ago, when Taylor Hawkins died, we decided to put together a Taylor Hawkins tribute. But we actually did that one on Broadway. It was great. It was awesome. It was mainly geared towards the drummers, and it was just a house band that we did. And it was great. I mean, we had a lot of big guys on there. We had Rich Redmond from Jason Aldean, Jim Riley from Rascal Flatts, now plays with Gary LaVox of Rascal Flatts. I mean, man, I couldn't tell you who else we had on there, but it was a lot of fun. And I was like, man, we need to do that again next year. Who could we do? So my main guy that I use a lot on guitar, Will Beeman. I'm not sure if you've ever met Will. Will is a phenomenal guitar player. I mean, probably he could hear a song in 2 seconds and figure it out like that. I don't know how he does it. His brain's just weird. It's like him and Hayden are cut from the same mold. It's insane. So we decided to put together a Rage Against the Machine tribute. Because I haven't seen one done in a long time. I mean, there's a lot of different things that have been done and repeated, which is great. It's fine. But I tried to not do it like very close to when it was done. So I was like, all right, well, if we're going to do Rage, let's do it right. And let's get a lot of big guys on it this time. Let's get, a few Broadway people that, we play with that are really heavy hitters. So we went to East Side Bowl, let them know what we wanted to do. And I was like, well, we're also going to do it for this company called David's Den, which is a phenomenal nonprofit organization that works with musicians that have mental illness to help them get the help that they need. I mean, if it's for, therapy or just coming to their facility just to be there with you, to help you. They're a great organization. I love those guys. And that was probably the craziest event I had put on since then. So we had 65, it was 65, I thought it was 63, 65 different artists playing on each instrument. So we had 20 some drummers, 20 guitar players, 20 bass players, and singers on top of that. And it was incredible. We had a great night. It was a packed night. And I was like, man, I don't know how we're going to top that one. And then I was like, well, we got to do something really good, and that's going to just make people go, oh, crap, this is where it's at. So we're doing one in October, same place, East Side Bowl, because I just love East Side Bowl. Yeah. It's such a great DIY place, and it's super fun, and the people that run it are just great people. So we're like, okay, let's do a Van Halen tribute. But instead of just David Lee Roth, let's do Dave, Sammy, Gary Sharon with the one song that he had that was popular. And let's throw in Mammoth WVH because I don't know if anyone's listened to both of Wolfgang Van Halen's albums. Oh my God. Like probably some of the best rock and roll besides Hayden, probably some of the best rock and roll that's out there right now. Yeah. And we're like, you know what? Let's do it. And I'm working with a campaign from the American Cancer Society called Men Wear Pink. So it's geared towards breast cancer, but I'm also not singling out any other kind of cancers that are out there. With myself that has been affected by it. I am a cancer survivor, and also with my mom and my sister. It's something I'm a very big advocate for. Yeah. So I love doing stuff like that.
Man, that's really powerful, especially just like, musicians maybe insecure about healthcare, stuff like that. Like, so how do you kind of secure like, healthcare for yourself? And how do you see people do
I
it?
try not to let my health kind of be known a lot. So about 2, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer that was in my blood, and I thought it was leukemia.
Oh, wow.
They found it very quickly. They were able to, get me into remission very quickly, and I'm quiet about it, but I'm not quiet about it. Like if I want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. I'm not gonna like not tell anybody.
Mm.
But I'm the type of guy that I won't ask for any type of charity.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I guess that's just how my parents raised me. They just, hey, work for it for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't ask for a handout. If it got to a point where I knew that it was going to be bad, then yeah, I would have reached out. Especially this recent with being with two family members that have both passed away. I had a lot of friends that were like, hey, let us help you. You're out of work. Let us help you. And I'm like, man, you don't have to. But that's one thing I love about our community. We're here to pick each other up when somebody's down. But when it comes to like my health, I always try to push through it without any type of help. But then I also saw a lot of people that really do need the help.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do music for a living now for 10 years. I've been in Nashville almost 10 years, and I've been able to do it this long with no help. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And there's a lot of people that don't get that.
Yeah.
And when I see that, I'm like, maybe we need to do something to give back. So it's my way of giving back with anything for anybody. Just because, it's like if I was in that position,
Yeah.
I would hope someone would do that for me. And that's why I just try to look out for the better good of humanity. I try to. I'm not the greatest human in the world, but I do my best. But that's one thing I love about music. I will throw a charity event any time of the year if it's geared around music, even if it's original or cover. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's just how I like to do it, man.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So I try to be. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, music is special in that way. It brings people together.
It does.
And like, music's not always the most valued or the most essential, supposedly. But, when it comes down to it, like, I think people really do care, and they can get behind that.
You're right. I mean, the thing about music, I mean, people love it. People love music, but a lot of people also don't realize what it takes to do what we do. Yeah. Like the amount of hours we put in, the amount of money that we put into our craft. I mean, I play drums. I play one of the most expensive instruments in the game. And I'm like, crap, do I have to spend this for this? Okay, I need it. I don't need it, but I need it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's why we charge so much.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're trying to be greedy or anything like that. And I mean, it's just like being, someone with a 4-year degree or being a doctor. It's like, hey, you're not going to ask a doctor to give you free healthcare at the time. They've got to make a living too. Yeah. And that's the thing I love about what we do, is because not only takes you away from your troubled day or your stressful day, that's the thing about it. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, before I even used to play music full time, I would just go home and just listen to whatever I was feeling at the time. And if I was angry or mad or something, all I had to do was just pop in a CD, because I used to have a Discman, a little portable CD player, baby, headphones and all.
Nice.
I'd pop in whatever I was feeling at the time, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm good. Now I can go do my homework and not be stressed. Or if there's a concert coming, that takes time. That takes time to go to do. But also, it just takes you away. There's worries away from you, even if it's for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's what I love about music.
Where are you from?
Originally from North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
What was kind of the tipping point got you out to Nashville?
Well, I lived in North Carolina most of my life. I left North Carolina about 2010 and went to Washington, D.C. for about 4 years, and started kind of discovering music again. And I started playing with a band called According to Plan, and love those guys. I owe a lot of where I'm at to those guys, especially our singer Andrew. And he and we still write together when we can. And I was like, man, maybe I need to really think about doing this full time, but didn't think I could. So I was like, well, let's go to another state. So I went to California. Yeah, that didn't last long. I liked California. It was too expensive. Oh. And where I was at, it wasn't, I mean, there was a music hub in the San Francisco area, but not as prominent as I thought. So went back to North Carolina for about a year. And then a friend of mine I went to high school with, his name was Brian Van Meter. We ran into each other, and he's like, dude, you're too good to be here. You need to go to Nashville. I'm like, Nashville? Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think I'm that good. He's like, oh man, you'll be just fine. And I always tell everybody when I lived in Wilmington, I always felt like I was the big fish in the pond because, you know, I was always playing with everybody. I was always told I was the greatest drummer in town, and you know, you got a little ego there.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't.
Yeah.
Came to Nashville and I found out real quick I was not as good as I thought I was. So it took a couple times to really get into the groove of things. You know, I got told many times, "Hey, you're too flashy, you're too loud, you're not going to get on any big gigs." And at the time, you know, I was like, "Man, maybe people are right." And then it took about my third year being here, then I really started kind of coming into my own, figuring out Broadway because you know, I started at Broadway.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, well, let's learn how to just play different." So, I mean, I'm still loud. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not. And I'm a very high energy drummer. That's just who I am. But I learned how to start playing to the song a little bit more instead of just being flashy. Now, I like being a little flashy once in a while. I like to throw little stick tricks up there, especially on Broadway. Just, you know, you got to get everyone going, ooh, there's that guy.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm on a major gig on the road, oh no, I'm back there in the pocket. I just lay back. But Nashville was it was a town I never thought I could be in.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, man, this is too much.
Yeah.
It's like the East Coast LA.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that good. And about, I think it was somewhere around my second year I left. So I left for about 9 months and went back to North Carolina and just kind of sat there on my parents' property in the mountains. So we're from the mountains of North Carolina, but I call Wilmington, North Carolina really my hometown because that's kind of where I cut my teeth a little bit as a musician. I went to high school, went to college there.
Yeah.
So that's what I call home. But, you know, the mountains are still where I'm originally from. My best friend Bill will let me know very quickly that I'm a mountain kid, but I don't.
Yeah, you had to take a little hiatus, a little break from the
I
Nash
did. And, you know, I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because I bit off more than I could chew when I first came here, and I knew that. And I was like, man, maybe I'm not that good. And maybe I don't have what it takes. So I took about 9 months, started playing with some bands back in North Carolina, and, you know, got a call from a friend that's a bass player here in town. And he's like, hey, man, you know, there's a lot of change and happen. Maybe you should come back. So when I came back, I had a motto in my head. I said, it's success or nothing. And I didn't want to just come back with my tail tucked and then leave again. And since then, I've been very, very blessed and very honored that I get to go on the road a lot with people that I never thought I'd go on the road with. I've opened up for people I never thought I'd ever be on the same stage with. So it's a very eye-opening experience when you finally realize, okay, you can do this, but just change your perspective.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it was from that 9-month hiatus.
Wow.
And thank God I took it. So
Yeah, it seems like perspective's everything out here, especially just like expectations and like that kind of thing. So how had Nashville really kind of changed for, like you said, your friend reached out to you saying it was changing, and I know it's growing.
Oh yeah.
So I guess, you know, how does that really like change, you know, your prospects for coming out?
Well, when I first got here, you know, Broadway was still a thing. You know, I mean, it's always been a thing, but Broadway was not what it is now. You know, it used to be your base pay was not even $100.
Oh wow.
I mean, your base pay was maybe $40, and that was everywhere. And some places didn't even give you a base pay.
Wow.
It was whatever you made in that tip jar. That was what you walked away with. So you had to hustle. But it was different, you know, and it wasn't much of a rock town like it is now. You know, so it was a lot of country. So I always tell people I'm not a big country fan, but I'll play it because it pays really well.
Right.
But then I learned to love it. I learned to love the playing of the country, the songwriting, and that's what I love about country now is songwriting. Well, there's certain songs that are out right now. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It's like that's number one right now. Okay. But, you know, I'm not going to hate on it. I mean, if it gets you success, hey man, it gets you success. And that's how I look at it. But, you know, it was a lot different then. You know, that was 2015 when I moved here. And then I stayed here for a year. And then when I left, and when my buddy Corey called me, he said, hey man, things are changing a little bit. Broadway's changing. and it's starting to have a more of an element that's our thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So I came back. I waited for maybe about 6 months, and then I finally got onto Broadway. Started playing a lot of country still, but then started noticing that okay, I can play rock. And then they're like, well, can you sing? Oh, yeah, yeah. You're a drummer. Can you sing? Yeah. And I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm.
Like being a singing drummer downtown
Mm.
is huge
Yeah.
because that helps your singer out, your front guy. And I
Mhm.
mean, it just kind of shows the different sides of each musician that's on stage.
Yeah.
So that was a big change. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I started noticing that, okay, maybe let's see if I can get away with doing some songs like this. So before, I think it was like 2017, Sugar We're Going Down was never a Broadway standard.
Crazy.
And me and my buddies started playing it, and then everybody started playing it. I'm like, okay, we're setting a trend here. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Then about 2018, I'm like, guys, let's do something different. Let's see if we can do an emo night. Let's see what that does. And that totally changed the game, which was insane. And then emo nights started popping up everywhere. And then I had another guy that I'm not for sure if you know him, funniest guy you'll ever meet in your life. His name is Nick Valisi. So when I first met him, and now if you see him now compared to what he looked like when I met him back in 2018, he was like the epitome David Lee Roth lookalike.
Dang.
He was the hair metal guy and
Wow.
had the squeal. He dressed the part. He lived the part.
Yeah.
And now he is just like this buff dude that I still love to this day. And I'm like, dude, I love you. And you are just the baddest ass guy ever. So now he does his own little project now. He still does some of the hair metal stuff, but he does his own project where it's all pop music.
Oh, wow.
And when you see him, you're like, no way. But it's the funniest thing you'll ever see. But it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because he's built such a niche with it, and he travels all over and he's killing it. And when I met Nick, we did a glam hair night, and we started doing that. And then I think Rare Hair had been around for a while, but it hadn't been like as huge as it is now. But it was just like, you started to notice the different changing of the musical styles in Nashville. And then you started hearing it in country music.
Yeah.
Because it was, okay, well, we had the bro country, then it switched to pop country. Now we've got guys that are like Lakeview or Josh Ross that are more bringing in the element of like heavy metal to country, and it's working. And it's crazy, just the shift in music from when I came here in 2015 to where it is now.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to see that rock is really starting to make a comeback in Nashville. I mean, the guys that really I felt like got it really started was True Villains. I mean, those guys are unreal. Like some of my favorite musicians in town. And then I met Hayden, and I was like, where did your music come from?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where this came from, but this is amazing. And it's just crazy, just where the style of music has gone since 2015
Yeah.
into where we're at now.
Yeah.
So,
I want to kind of talk about Hayden too, but,
Yeah.
but before that, how is kind of like, you were talking about Broadway, being how you kind of got your start, but like, how has your relationship with Nashville kind of changed since you got back here?
when I came back after that 9-month hiatus, I really dove into the community because I wanted to be a part of our community. I told myself I wanted to be the drummer that everybody wanted to work with. But I also wanted to keep a level head. I didn't want to be egotistical about it, because that's one thing I do realize now from when I first came to town to where I'm at now. You can't have an ego when you come here. If you come here with an ego and if you think you're better than everybody, you're not going to work. You just have to come in here. You got to be humble. And my relationship now with Nashville, I feel like, is a very, really close, kind of relationship, because I've worked with so many people. I've helped a lot of people get into gigs just because I didn't have that when I came to Nashville. When I came into Nashville, it was like, here you go, good luck. And we didn't have a lot of guys in town that were willing to help you and to help you get into a gig or put their name out there for you. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a relationship town. It is all based on relationships. But that's how I feel, how I am now from when I first moved here, is that I've created so many relationships through helping each other. And that's how I will always feel. You got to help each other out. If you don't like somebody, fine. You don't have to like you don't have to like each other. I mean, that's fine, but be respectful to each other. You know, that's something I've always learned, and a lot that I learned from a lot of my peers is like, if you're respectful to each other, and even if you don't like each other, but at least you have the respect to help them out, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to make a lot of enemies. I know I've got enemies. I'm not gonna lie. I'm the kind of guy. I'm very outspoken. I will piss somebody off very quickly. I'm not gonna lie and say that I don't. But it's not that I'm trying to. But I will tell people how I feel.
Makes a good drummer.
Oh yeah. I remember one time I was playing downtown Broadway. I think this was like 2017, and I played with the same guys for 3 years. Like we were a tight band. We played with each other for a very long time. Went on the road with every guy that we could go on the road with. But I remember one show. I can't remember when it was, but we had somebody just heckling us from stage. And I remember saying over the mic, I said, "If you don't stop, I'm going to throw a drumstick at you." I literally threw a drumstick at this person. Thank God it didn't start a fight, but everyone thought it was just absolutely hysterical. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not shy to be a jerk, but if I try not to be. You know, my mom raised me really well to be very respectful, and you know, I try to be as respectful as I possibly can. But you know, I do have my side where I can be a jerk, but I'm not gonna lie. You know, I think everyone has that side.
Yeah.
But as of being here now, you know, it's really about just relationships and just really helping each other out and being a part of the community. You know, I'm not as much of a part of Broadway as I normally am. I try to kind of not be have much of a downtown presence like I used to, just because you know I moved here to be a touring guy.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to be on the road, and that's kind of where I feel like I shine more. Now I love Broadway. I'm not talking shit about Broadway or saying anything bad about anybody that plays Broadway, because one, it's a great tool to have. Broadway, you know, a friend of mine I worked with for a long time, she said, "Don't work for Broadway, let Broadway work for you." And when you let it work for you, you will notice that your career is going to be just fine. But I mean, I got guys that are lifers down there, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody measures success differently. You know, to me, I want to be on the road. I want to see the country. Like this past weekend, I've been to every single state on the West Coast except Oregon, and finally got to play in Oregon this past weekend with one of my artists I'm with now. And I was like, okay, this is why I go out on the road. You know, I get to see places like this, and now I'm ready to go overseas. I'm ready to see what overseas looks like. Never been to Canada. I want to see what Canada looks like, but yeah. So.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful. Like your music can take you all over, man.
Oh, I know, it's insane.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
universal.
I've got a couple friends that are now starting to go overseas right now, and you know, we were talking about Australia, and I'm like, I hate you. Like, like that is like my dream place to go to. I was like, they're like, yeah, Australia is great. I said, I just want to go to Australia. I want to fight a kangaroo. I just don't want to see the really big spiders. Because I am a little girl when it comes to spiders, man. No. But that's why I have a cat at home. I let her kill the spiders. She takes care of all that for me.
Dang. Yeah, man, that's an adjustment moving to Nashville.
Yeah,
the freaking spiders. This house was like been vacant for a year before we got here.
Oh no!
And like it was just overrun.
Oh, it was probably brown recluses, because that is literally the I would say that's the state spider of Tennessee. I'm very lucky. I've not seen any in my house, because I keep my house very clean, and I also spray it all the time. And I just recently called an exterminator. It's like, okay, I saw one spider. I want you to kill them all. Figure out how to do it. Yeah. And my sister and my best friend from home, they will literally, and they do this all the time just to piss me off, because they know I can't stand it, but they will post on my Facebook wall just pictures of spiders. And they think it's the funniest damn thing in the world. And my sister will laugh at me all the time. My best friend's like, and I'll just delete them, and then they'll send it me in a text. Hey, since you deleted this on your Facebook, we just figured we'd send it to you in a text. It's okay. I'm going to burn your house down. Yeah. But yeah, that's literally my kind of like where I'm at now with how my relationship with Nashville is, and I'm very grateful for this city. I'm grateful that, you know, it's given me a chance, especially at my age, to be able to, you know, live out my dreams. You know, I never thought in a million years I'd be where I'm at. You know, I always wanted to play music full time, but didn't think I was good enough and didn't think I was, in a position where I could be on the road. And, I'm very grateful to all the artists that I've been able to tour with that, I like my first artist I came here. I know I always wanted to work with him. He was an American Idol guy. I watched him. I loved his music. His name was Josh Grayson. He was my very first major artist, and I got the chance to play with him, and he really opened the doors for my career. And, I was able to start kind of bouncing to another artist that, was kind of climbing. And, I've been very grateful. Now I play for two amazing artists that I've looked up to, and it's great.
How did the y'all kind of meet and get?
Well, so Josh, I messaged Josh when I first moved to town. He hadn't been touring as much, but he still had a presence and he was still putting out music. So I messaged him. It's like, hey, I just moved to town. I was like, I'm a big fan of your music. If you ever need a drummer, give me a call. So I didn't really hear from him. He said, hey, I'll keep you in mind. That's when he wrote back. So I met him at Whiskey Jam when Whiskey Jam used to be over at Winners. Yeah. And that was like 2016. Got to talk to him for a little bit. Still didn't hear much from him. And then before COVID hit, a friend of mine that was managing him at the time said, hey, Josh's drummer, and this is, I swear you can't make this up. Josh's drummer broke his foot. He needs a drummer. Can you be in Baltimore tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I can be in Baltimore tomorrow. And thank God I knew all of Josh's music because I've been listening to it since 2004. And it was great. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I got to play these songs that I've always loved listening to. Whoa. And Josh was great. I mean, he's like still to this day, I think is probably one of the best singers that I've heard in a long time. Wow. Male singers. Yeah. And he's a Detroit boy. He's a Marine, Nice. He's very outspoken. He'll tell you what he thinks. Yeah. He told me all the time. And Josh was great. I was very, very grateful for that gig. I was his drummer and band leader for about 3 years. And then about my third year, he was slowing down a little bit, and I was fine. I was still playing Broadway and still doing his gigs. And then I got a call from my friend Saul Philcox. Saul is an incredible guitar player. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Saul, but if you've heard every Luke Combs song ever recorded, that's Saul. Wow. Like Beer Never Broke My Heart, that is Saul. Damn. That's insane. His brain, I don't know how it works, but it's an incredible brain. So Saul had called me. I met Saul. Funny how I met Saul. Before I was playing music, I was driving Uber. And I picked Saul up one night in the East, and he and I just got to talking. We exchanged numbers and said, hey, let's get together. Let's talk, things like that. And we stayed in touch, but we never really hung out and things like that. But he gave me a call and said, hey, would you like to play for Adam Sanders? He's looking for a drummer. I was like, I know the name, but I don't know who he is. And then he sent me his catalog. So Adam is an incredible songwriter. Adam's written songs. He's got number ones with Dustin Lynch, Cole Swindell. He wrote Ain't Worth the Whiskey from Cole Swindell. Hell of a Night for Dustin Lynch. I mean, he's written for everybody in the business. And I knew those songs, but Saul sent me Adam's, I think his debut album is called What If I'm Right? And I listened to the title track. I was like, oh gosh, I got to play for this guy. So Adam and I had a great conversation, and I left Josh on good terms. I was like, hey, I want to take this opportunity. I thank you for the opportunity. And it was great to get to play with Adam because then that opened up major doors for me. That's when I first finally got to start touring with really big names. I mean, when I was with Adam, we went out with, who did we go out with? Dustin Lynch. We went out with Carrie Underwood, which was unreal. That was my first major show. Wow. Actually, I take that back. My first major show I ever opened up for was in 2017, but we'll get back to that. So when I played with Adam, it was great. I loved every bit of that tour. Adam was, and he's still somebody I look up to a lot in town. Incredible songwriter, and just all around just great guy. The show was great. He slowed down a little bit because he was writing more, because he writes more for people than he does tour. So he decided not to tour much, and then I was approached by a guy named Dylan Carmichael. So Dylan is the nephew of John Michael Montgomery and Eddie Montgomery from Montgomery Gentry. Yeah. So I got a call that said, "Hey, Dylan needs a drummer. We've got 5 days before we go out for this next run. Can you learn stuff by then?" I'm like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah.
So thank God I sat in my room and didn't leave my house for 4 days, and no rehearsal. Literally
Yeah.
just got to the gig and it was like sink or swim. Thank God it paid off. And I was with Dylan for about a year and a half. And Dylan, I will say, is the sweetest human being you'll ever meet. Dylan did a lot, not just for my career, but also did a lot for my family. Because during my time with Dylan, it was about July of 2022, I believe it was, or it was 23. I can't remember the year. It was somewhere around there. Yeah, it was 22. I'm sorry. My sister Lisa was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer, and she was stage 4 right off the bat. And Dylan loved my family. He loved my mom, my dad, my sisters. And the thing that most artists won't do, like hometown shows or do a charity event, they'll normally just be like, "Oh, well, here, whatever you need, we got you." But Dylan was different. Dylan was like, "Hey, man, let's go to your hometown. Let's put on a show for your sister. Let's raise some money." And we did. We played during a tropical storm at the time outside, and it was great. I mean, we got hit by so much rain, but still people stayed and partied.
Wow.
It was damn near sold out.
Dang.
And it was great. And all the ticket sales went to my sister, which was great. Unfortunately, we lost her back in February. And Dylan came and did my event at Whiskey Jam. I think you were at. He played acoustically, but he wanted to be there just because he loved my sister. And he and I are still very close. We talk all the time. I'm probably gonna do some fill-in dates for them, hopefully this year. But Dylan's great, and I was very honored that opened doors to my next artist, who I'm with now. So I'm with 2 different artists now. I'm with a girl named Allie Colleen. A lot of people don't know her dad is Garth Brooks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
So that's the thing I love about Allie, though. Allie is doing everything her way and doesn't ask for help.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to.
Yeah.
She's got probably some of the best written songs I've ever played in quite some time for a female artist. And I love playing with her. She's a hoot to be on the road with.
I bet.
Like, if you've ever watched Super Mario Brothers, the cartoon movie, she does a great impression of Toad. And our bass player, she had sent us a voice memo of her doing the Toad voice.
Yeah.
And I sent it to our bass player, and he's like, and he met up with us one night. He's like, "Oh, your frog voice was funny." And we're like, "Bro, leave. Like, not your frog voice. No, it's Toad from Super Mario." But Allie's great. She gave me an opportunity, and I knew who Allie was, and I really didn't know what her background was until somebody told me. I was like, "No way."
No.
And that's not really a huge topic of conversation in our group. I mean, we do talk about her dad. We talk about things about his show, what we like about his show, and it's really cool. And it's awesome to hear those stories. But that's not the main point of our gig. Allie does things on her own, and she marches to the beat of her own drum.
Yeah.
And she is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love watching what this girl does, and the music she's writing right now. I'm like, how no one's not picked this up yet is insane, which it's going to happen. I mean, the girl's just works her tail off.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that I get to play with her. And then, Danny, as always, Danny, we met through a grunge night, and it's crazy. Like where your career will meet somebody that you never thought you'd play with. So I'm very grateful for the career that I've had and that I still have, and that people still hire me and still let me come be an absolute jackass and make stupid voices and but still give me an opportunity to do what I love, and it's playing music.
Yeah. Wow. Man, so you're doing all this gun work, and you're still writing some songs on the side. You're writing for yourself. What's kind of that process been like, and how long have you kind of been working on that?
So I started doing my own music. I've always written.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be like, oh, okay, maybe I can do my own thing. but I've never actually saw myself as a front guy.
Mm.
So about 2020, I put out an EP. It was called Real Thing, and it was with songs that I'd written with other people. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put my own versions out, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But something I don't know. I felt like it was missing. I just didn't feel like there was a lot of meaning in what I was writing. So I took some time off, and then when my mom died, mom passed away in August this past year, and I was like, man, I really don't know how to channel these feelings. I don't know how to really think about how I want to get them out. You know, do I go to therapy? Do I talk to somebody? And then I started writing just this chorus of something, and I was like, oh, maybe there's beauty in the pain. I'm like, that's a really good title for a song. And then one of my favorite bands, Story of the Year, has a song out called Real Life, and they say it in their song. They're like, maybe there's beauty in the pain. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to start writing. So I called Josh, my producer, which also plays with us with Danny. I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? And then we got in the room and just started writing. And then I was like, well, I like what this song's about. Maybe I'll make an EP that's literally about going through traumatic life experiences and coming out on the other side. So now my original music has a new life, as I would say. It's not more about, you know, relationships or, you know, summer loves or, you know, just covers and stuff that doesn't make sense. You know, I wanted to write something that was meaningful, and I'm not a concept guy. I've never been a concept guy. Concept albums really don't do much for me. But it's kind of like where I'm at now in my life as a writer, that I want to write more stuff that's meaningful and inspirational and, you know, talks about, you know, how you're feeling. And it's been a really cool experience to be able to see a lot of that come to life.
Yeah.
And now I've got, I am putting a cover song on my new EP that I actually had Hayden play on. Well, we just recorded this past weekend. I'm like, I hate you. I was like, you're just too good. You know you are. So, and he's like, man, I'm just playing. I was like,
he hasn't even been playing that long either.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
He's an incredible musician. I always go back to that guy. I tell everybody about Hayden all the time. I mean, he inspires me to be a better musician and also a better human, because he's just a good person. And when you find that those kind of people, especially in like towns like Nashville and Los Angeles or New York, you know, hold on to those type of people, you know, hold on, because they're going to show you a better version of yourself. And Hayden and Ty, the past 2 years that we've got to play with each other, you know, have shown me who I am, not only as a musician, but as a human being. And I mean, I still got some work to do. I mean, I'm still working on that, but you know, those guys are just incredible.
But man, I never thought about like how unimaginable that kind of loss is, and then but to have the gift to like release that energy in a song, like a lot of people probably don't even have that outlet to really like.
You know, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they're like, man, like, how were you able to sit and just write this song? To be honest with you, it was very hard. I mean, it's still hard, you know, because right now I'm writing still, you know. I had to shift my focus of the EP, because at the time it was mainly about mom. And then when Lisa passed away, then I totally shifted my focus. And, you know, I've always told people, you know, and because it's true, I mean, we're all going to face death one day. We're all going to deal with it. And it's how you choose to work through it. Now, with me, I never thought it would be this early. You know, my mom was 68 when she passed away. That's young. To me, that's not old. That's young. And she was so full of life. And when she was diagnosed in April of last year, and only lasted till August with her cancer. But you would have never known she was sick.
Wow.
And then my sister, she had a 2-year battle, but you would have never known she was sick. You know, till the last week of her life, she took it on head on and didn't let it stop her. I mean, shit, she wanted to go to Disney World before she died, and they took her to Disney World. And that's something you don't really hear much. But, you know, when it came to being able to go through the outlets of it, because I never thought I'd deal with that now. I was thinking maybe in my 50s and maybe my 60s, I would lose, family members, and that's understandable. I mean, that's normal, but I mean, again, we never know when our time is going to come. But as of sitting there and writing, I was like, man, maybe this is the best way for me to deal with this, because I'm not going to go out and just drink my face to death, because that's going to make it worse. That's not going to make it any better. It's just going to numb it for the time being. So I just started writing, and I was like, yeah, this has been very helpful. And Beauty and the Pain was a very big therapeutic moment for me, because I didn't know how to channel the feelings, but when I finally got those feelings out, I was like, wow, and the thing I love about the song is that my mom's voice is in that song. I started the song off with a voicemail she left me. Wow. It was the very first voicemail. It was the first time I'd ever played the Grand Ole Opry, and she left me a voicemail, and I was like, that voicemail has to be on this song. And I put it on there, and that's the thing I wanted that song to be. And I wanted people to know that, hey, this is the inspiration behind this song, and this is the voice I got to hear, for my lifespan. And I still listen to it. There's days I had to stop listening to it for a little bit because, it's emotional. It's an emotional song. But it's a way that I can still hear my mom's voice, and that she's a part of my art that I got to put out. Now I want to do another song that's going to be about mom, but also my sister. I don't know if I'll put another voicemail in there, but there will be elements of both of them in there, and that's what I see in my writing now. I use my mom and my sister. I mean, they were some of the biggest inspirations of my life. My mom was a very strong Christian woman. My sister was too. My sister was a paramedic, her whole life. She saved people. And my mom worked for the highway patrol, so she helped people that way. And, I wanted to, I wasn't the public servant type of person, but, if my music can help somebody get through a traumatic experience, just my personal music, then I've done my job. I don't care about money. I don't care if it does. I don't care about the streaming numbers. When I first released it, I was like, man, I hope this song does something and it has the biggest numbers that I get out of it. It didn't get the numbers I wanted. And you know what? That's okay. Yeah. It did something for people that are around me. Yeah. Like Hayden, one day we were playing a show at Johnny Cash, and I forgot what made him do it, but he's like, we played one of his songs because I love playing all of his stuff. I think we played Blank Page or something. And then he told the crowd, well, hey guys, Brian back here also puts out his own music, and he starts playing Beauty and the Pain. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, we're going to play this song. I'm like, you learned my song? And him and Ty both had learned it. And that says something to me. That's like, dude, that's awesome. That's especially in an emotionally charged song like that is. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me saying, hey, and it's not like thousands of people, but I'm fine with just one person just saying, hey, thank you for putting that song out. It helped me get through what I was going through with a death of my grandparents or my sister, my brother, my mom, my dad. That's why I wrote it. Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And your career's not over. I mean, that song captures this time in your life, and you'll always be able to look back on it, and as your career grows, people will too.
I hope so, man. I never know what my solo stuff's gonna do, but I'm happy where it's at right now. My last stuff I was happy with, but this is a little bit different. It has meaning now. Yeah. And that's my focus now for my career. It's more about being meaningful to somebody, to be there for them, and even like if it's just playing drums for them, but bring a human element to it. Yeah. And that's what I think about it. And if my solo music does something for someone across the world, and that's all it ever does, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Man, that's really cool of Hayden, man. So you're out here, you have your roots planted already a little bit, and Hayden's this new guy pulling up. What's the kind of meeting him like, and how do you?
So I met Hayden. We'd always met each other in passing because I would go play with a guy named Stony T. I'm not sure if you ever met him. Probably the craziest kid I've ever met. He's like an Energizer bunny. I don't know how he has the energy he does. But I was playing with him, and we would come in after Hayden every time his shift was on. So I only got to talk to Hayden a couple times. Didn't really hang out with him, meet him. But I was hosting at the time, filling in for my buddy John from Bus Call, and Hayden was playing.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I get to hear his original stuff. I think it was Careless that I'd heard for the first time. I'm like, what is this? This is awesome. And then Hayden and I just hit it off, just started talking, and then we exchanged numbers. I was like, hey, anytime you ever need me, call me. I'd love to come play with you. And we just talked to each other constantly, and we were just talking different types of musics that we like. You know, Hayden's more the classic guy or the grunge guy. I'm more of the I like a little bit of classic, but I'm also more of your like heavy metal kind of guy. And then one day Hayden calls me, he says, hey, I need a drummer. Can you come play with me? I was like, yeah, send me your set list. He's like, well, we're just gonna see how it goes. I don't really have a set list. I just kind of go by the seam of my pants. I'm like, okay. So I know he played a lot of rock, and then I knew he played Purple Rain, which I was happy about.
Yeah.
And I played his first set, and I'm like, oh, he's like, okay, we're gonna do we call it the getting on the yacht. How long? I forgot who. I forgot who sings
I love
it.
that song.
And he's like, yeah, he said it's just a groove. I'm like, I've never heard this song a day in my life. And literally from that moment on, I was like, I love this guy. And then he's like, okay, we're gonna play Benny and the Jets. I was like, oh yeah, I know that. And how they played it, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. So meeting Hayden, you know, at the time that I did was very beneficial to me, I think, because it helped change the way I played. Because I was always that guy that just beat the shit out of everything. You know, I was bringing for a while a big 24-inch ride downtown. That thing was massive. And I just got rid of it because I was like, man, I loved it. But I was like, I need something that's not going to be such abrasive. But I mean, Hayden loved it. He thought it was awesome. He thought it was cool. But something about, I mean, him and I just, we click so well together on stage. We try to make each other laugh. And now I've stolen stuff from his shows where it's like, I'm asking people, where are you from? Oh, we're from Texas. Oh, the Sunshine State. So
it's all the Sunshine.
It's just, it's funny because that's what I loved about Hayden. You know, Hayden always says, you know, don't always take yourself seriously. Yeah. He said it on this podcast, actually. I can't remember the actual quote. But yeah, I mean, I take myself seriously, but I don't. You know, because you have to have a little bit of fun. Yeah. And that's what really changed how I like to play downtown. Yeah. Is you have to have fun. Because you're playing 4 hours at a time. You're not playing your own music. You're playing cover music. You're really down there selling alcohol to the crowd. Yeah, you're making money at the same time, but yeah, take it seriously, but don't be too serious where the people can't see that you're an actual human being. Yeah. And have fun with them. I mean, I joke with people. I mess with people so much. Like I think my big thing, I would tell someone if they were being kind of jerks, I'd be like, dude, I'll come down there and hug you if you need a hug. And I actually had one guy was like, will you really give me a hug? I was like, absolutely, I'll give you a hug. I literally got off the kit and I went down there and gave the guy a hug. He thought it was the funniest thing ever. That's fun. So, and now like my thing downtown is like, I'll do like the gingerbread man voice all the time, like telling people if you know the Muffin Man. Or anytime Hayden and I will play, I'll be like, all right, because we play Big Empty a lot from Stone Temple Pilots. And I always start the song off. I'm like, all right, kids, now here's a song you'll never hear, but it's from the soundtrack The Crow, if that helps you out. And everyone's like, how do you know that? And like Hayden plays a lot of songs, and I'll be like, oh yeah, this was off the Forrest Gump soundtrack. Oh, that was on Top Gun. Oh, this was in Disturbing Behavior. And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, but I was like, I'm a nerd. It's just what I do. Yeah. So it's fun. That's what I love about the guy. Yeah. And it helped me not be so serious and just lay back and enjoy the moment. Yeah.
On the topic of like having fun and stuff like that, like, you know, I think it's like moving out here and having this kind of like hustle, like we got to make things happen quick mentality, and like we got to work. Like that kind of seems like really all of America has a pretty like heavy work culture, but like what do you do to kind of like have fun or enjoy yourself outside of music?
I go to the movies.
Yeah.
I go to the movies.
I can see,
I go to the movies constantly.
What are your top movies?
Well, I mean, I know
Most impactful movies.
the most impactful movie. Ooh, man. I like movies that have meaning. But if you look at my Apple TV, I have over like 500 movies. I buy them.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of money bought in movies.
Mm.
I like inspirational movies, but I also like, I like action movies, but I'm a big fan of the movie Twister. Like
Really?
that's my one of my all-time favorite movies. One of, besides Jaws. And I have all the Jaws movies and even the fourth one, which is absolutely terrible. But when I'm really excited about the new Twister coming out. My singer Danny, his wife and I, and my old roommate and I, we literally quote lines from Twister all the time, and I'll send them memes and stuff, and that's this thing. But I love movies that are like impactful. Like I can watch. There's a movie from Kevin Costner all the time, and it's a sports movie, but just the meaning behind the movie. It's called For the Love of the Game. I could watch that over and over again. Even The Sandlot, I could watch over and again. What did I watch last night? Like if I want a good laugh, I'll watch a movie that's got like just makes me laugh and it's just stupid. There's a movie with Jonah Hill called The Sitter. The stupidest movie ever. But like I love Sam Rockwell's character because he's a drug dealer, but he's like, oh, you're my 8th best friend and all this. So like it'll range. It'll range from, oh, I'm not a big fan of demonic movies, but I just went and saw the first Omen, which is out because, I saw the old original movies, but I wanted to know how the little demon son came about. Or, like they're doing a thing now at the movie theater where they're putting old movies back in the theater. Like they just put The Matrix back in, which was great. Went and saw that in the theater again. They had Dumb and Dumber back in the theater. Snap. So I was like, yeah, I'm like, I love doing stuff like that because I love popcorn. I love popcorn. And now that I have to kind of be more health conscious now because I'm diabetic, I have to drink anything that's got no sugar in it, which is fine. But I still love peanut M&Ms. So I don't care what my doctor says. I'm gonna eat my peanut M&Ms. So, but for fun, like I love going to the movies. I'm an avid putt guy. There's a new putt place in town I haven't gone to yet.
Snap.
I think it's called like Putt Shack or something. And someone told me it's like an obstacle course, but putting. I love that, and I'll go to like an arcade. Nice. I don't care. I mean, if everyone wants to go out and get hammered, that used to be me. Yeah. Like not saying that I don't drink and go hang out and party with my friends. I do, but it's not like an everyday thing like it used to be when I first moved here. I'm getting a little older. Yeah, it sucks. Things hurt. Especially my knees and my hands.
Yeah,
but like I like to do like just dumb things, and everyone's like, "Dude, you go to the movies all the time." I'm like, "I know, because it's fun. It's therapeutic." Yeah. That's my escape.
I love movies.
Dude, movies are great.
Yeah.
Like you can have so much fun in a movie theater. Like there's people that I don't even know that will be sitting down like the row from me, and then I'll be like at a comedy movie laughing my ass off, and the people are laughing more at me because my laugh is kind of very distinct, like how my dad's laugh is. My dad's laugh is just hysterical because like when he really gets into it, it's probably the funniest thing. Like I'll tell you a story back in like in the 90s. I'm old, by the way. There was a movie out with Billy Crystal called City Slickers, and it's just a hysterical movie. So I'm in the movie with my dad and my mom, and I think it was all of us, the whole family. The whole theater's laughing because there's a lot of great moments that are funny in that movie, but my dad's laugh is just so distinct, and it's a very distinct laugh that you cannot help but laugh at it. Yeah. It's hysterical. Now my mom, like my dad and I would love to torture my mom. She is like I said, a very strong Southern Baptist Christian woman. Now I'm not for sure if you ever saw the movie Team America World Police. You know exactly where I'm going. So my dad and I took my mom to see this movie, and she had no idea what she was walking into. In the one scene, which we all know which scene we're talking about, my mom was covering her eyes the whole time. My dad and I are sitting there dying laughing. And that was just what my dad and I would do to my mom. But that's the thing. It's just, you have to have fun like that outside of like what your job is. like my dad, he worked a very stressful job. He worked in emergency management, so him going to like the movies or working on his car because he loves cars. That was his escape. My mom, she worked a stressful job, but my mom was a very humanitarian type of person. She loved to help people, and I think that's where one thing I think I took from my mom. I got my dad's sense of humor and my mom's heart. My mom was always helping people, and that's why I like to do the charity events.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with my ego or getting who I know on these things. No, it's bringing our community together and doing something right for the people that need the help.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from my family, and that's what I like to do, man. Like movies, putt putt. You know, I'll even occasionally go if I have a hankering. I'll go to Waffle House just to get a chocolate milk.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fun for me, which is a
Yeah.
bad idea. My friend Tori and I went the other night, and I was like, "You want to go to Waffle House?" She's like, "At 11 o'clock." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm hankering a chocolate milk and a waffle." That was a bad idea. But it was still funny because we laughed. You laugh because you just have to have fun and laughing. I don't really have fun going out spending money on alcohol anymore because
Yeah.
I don't like hangovers anymore.
Yeah.
Hangovers suck. It's not fun. But like if I'm out on the road with the bands, we throw down. That's what we do. We're always gonna find ways to have fun. Like this past show I did with Allie, we were in Oregon. Never been to Oregon. Beautiful state. The only sucky part about it was when we got off the plane, we had to drive 3 hours to the venue. But we got to see some really beautiful landscape. I felt like we were in like Ireland because it didn't look like we were in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So after we're done with our show, because everyone had a great time with us, they're bringing us tequila shots, having a great time. So Allie and I decided to get into a food fight.
Oh.
I don't know what possessed this, but I throw a glob of whipped cream in her hair.
Oh, my God.
And oh God, if you've ever been MMA kicked by Allie Colleen, it hurts so bad. But no, she's great, and we have fun. We have fun on the road. Even if we're drinking, but we find ways to have fun, and we all cut up, and every band I've been with, we find ways to cut up, and like when I was on the bus with Dylan, me and AD, our bass player, we'd sit up and watch Friday all the time because that was just kind of our movie, and then we would quote lines from Friday, and then our fiddle player, he and I would quote lines from Twister.
Yeah.
We kept on saying the suck zone all the time, and everyone's like, "Y'all are idiots." So yeah, that's just kind of like my humor. Like most of my humor I find in movie quotes. My whole life is a movie quote.
Yeah.
So I'll start talking like Forrest Gump. Like my roommate and I, we weren't even hammered. Well, he might have been. He came home from a gig. I was sitting up. I was watching something. I forgot what I was watching, and then we just started talking in Forrest Gump voice. Through our walls, we could hear each other, and we were just talking, saying stupid lines. I can't remember what got him. I think I was like, "Oh, there's my boat, Jenny," and he lost it, and then that's just kind of what we do. Like, I just like to be stupid.
Yeah.
So don't take yourself seriously. Have fun.
Oh, that's great, man. One last thing before we wrap up.
Yeah, man.
You said there was a story about Big Show in 2017 that we'd get back to.
Oh yeah. So my very first show, so I played with a guy in town. I won't mention his name because he might watch, but probably the worst gig I'd ever been on. Probably the worst gig I'd ever been on.
Boom.
This guy was awful. Like I think everybody that started on Broadway, I think, played for this guy. But I was grateful for it because it opened up some doors. But my very first big name act guy I'd ever opened up for was Toby Keith.
Whoa.
That was the very first big show I'd ever played. And we were in a little island in Ohio called Put-in-Bay, Ohio. You had to like go over on this island on a ferry. And I'm like, there's an island in Ohio. That makes no sense. But okay, whatever. And it was the coolest thing ever. Like, I was like, this is cool. This is what it's like to be on this type of stage. Toby was the nicest guy I'd ever met. God rest his soul. It's sad that we lost him, but he was such an incredible artist.
Yeah.
That inspired me. That whole show inspired me to really push for my career where I'm at now. I'd met one of my favorite drummers at the time. I followed him on Instagram. His name was Ben Satterley. Still plays. I forgot who he's playing with now, but Ben's played for everybody. He's played for bands like 1,000 Horses, Low Cash. I forgot who else he's played for, but he's with a really cool, I think it's Larkin Poe, who he's playing with now. Incredible drummer. And, you know, I ended up meeting him, and I was like, man, this is great. I'm finally getting to meet heroes of mine, and it's crazy that it took a guy playing on Broadway that I got to go do that. Like I said, probably the worst gig I'd ever played with, but I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
I learned, okay, you can play on crappy gigs, because
Yeah.
we all do. We
Right.
all, when we move to town, not everyone is lucky that can just come into Nashville and get on their dream gig.
Yeah.
A lot of times, a lot of people come into town, they have to slum it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I came into town. I've played with some really bad bands. I'm not gonna lie and say that I haven't, but doesn't mean that they're terrible. You know, now, I mean, because half these guys that I first came up with, I haven't talked to in forever, but I'm grateful for those opportunities because that opportunity led to the next one, led to the next one, and led to the next one.
Absolutely.
And you know, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everybody. I mean, there's a lot of new guys that are coming in town that they're like, man, I want to be famous. I'm like, well, is that your end goal? I'm like, well, what are you doing right now? Oh, nothing. I'm just looking to be famous. I'm going to get famous off TikTok. I'm like, okay, have you played gigs downtown? No. Well, I don't want to play with people on Broadway because that's a waste of my time. Don't ever say that. Don't ever look down on Broadway. Half these guys that are on big name gigs right now started on Broadway.
Yeah.
And they owe a lot of credit to Broadway. I owe a lot of credit to Broadway. I cut my teeth on Broadway. Broadway is like boot camp, if you think about it. You're playing 4 hours at a time.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys are playing quads. I don't know how they do it, especially drummers. Like I did a triple one time and I thought my hands were about to fall off.
I guess so.
And you're playing 4 hours at a time and you're playing so many different styles of music. If you can survive that, you can survive any gig. That's what I've always told myself. And actually a friend of mine said that to me. He said, just remember you're at boot camp right now. Because when you get to that gig that you've been working so hard for, it's not going to be as hard. Yes, I believe that. But also every gig is hard. It doesn't matter what gig you're on. You know, I've been on gigs that I had no business being on. I was like I still say to myself, I had no business being on the Dylan Carmichael gig because that was very country, but it had a Southern rock element to it. But I got very lucky to work with guys that were amazing musicians in that band that helped shape me who I was. Like our band leader at the time, our piano player, was probably one of the biggest inspirations to me in that band. You know, he showed me how to really hone in on my craft. And then Dylan also taught me a lot of stuff. He's like, hey, you know, pull back a little bit, play the backbeat a little bit better. Jason, my guitar player, I mean, he showed me so much stuff. AD, our bass player, showed me so much stuff. So, I mean, no matter what gig you're in, if you start off shitty, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because you never know where the next door is going to open. And that's what I tell everybody. Just because you're on Broadway right now does not mean if you have dreams and aspirations to be on a bigger stage, keep grinding, keep working hard. Don't think that Broadway is the begin all end all because it's not. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
That's what it's used for. It's a way for you to hone your craft, hone your chops, and learn. And then when you get that call, it's like being in Major League. You get called up to go to the next stage. Then you're just going to see how great Broadway has helped you. And it's helped me in so many great ways, and in some ways it hasn't helped me. But I'm also very grateful for Broadway, the people I've played for, people that I still get to play for, big name acts that I've got to play for, friends that I've worked with in this industry. I'm very grateful for all these people because I don't think I'd be where I am if it wasn't for any of that. So just keep grinding.
Yeah, seems like a great pin to put in it.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate
Yeah, man.
you.
Thanks for having me. This was great. I had a good time. Great convo.
Anytime you want to get back on.
Next time we'll do nothing but movie quotes. Movie voices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll do that, and then that's all the show will be about.
Yeah. I just watched all the Indiana Jones again. I'm just like I'm going back, man.
The Crystal Skull was terrible.
Yeah, I'll have to get a list from you, man.
I'll give you a huge list. So we'll be good to go there, man.
Well, sick, man. Thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. That was fun, dude.
Yeah, man.